Kevin Lee is truly one of the most impressive creators I've ever met. In addition to working full-time in content at Atlassian, he also manages an audience of over 300,000 individuals across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, he's also posting on LinkedIn. In the episode, we dive into why he's doing that, get deep into the philosophy behind why and how he creates his content, and overcomes the cringe factor. This is an episode that anyone who wants to create content isn't going to want to miss. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to Connection Accepted. Today we've got Kevin Lee on the pod. Kevin, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So Kevin, for the people that don't know who you are, can you just give a quick background of who you are, what you do, what you're working on?
Totally. Well, yes, my name's Kevin. I've been doing content for basically half my life at this point, and so it started with the Rubik's Cube YouTube channel. Back in 2015, I started called Keeping Coded, and I started just posting a bunch of random YouTube videos, and it ended up doing really, really well. It got 200,000 subscribers over the next few years, and I found myself just really falling in love with YouTube and content creation. Afterwards, I started doing TikTok a little bit, got up to 70,000 subscribers there, 70,000 followers there. And then now as, a big boy and starting to do, my full-time job, I realized that LinkedIn is also a good place to post content. And so I just been posting a bunch of random stuff on LinkedIn. It's been doing some do well, some don't do well, but it's a whole lot of fun. And I think there's a lot of opportunities with LinkedIn as well.
Kevin, I have to ask you, what does your employer think about you posting on LinkedIn, or do they just not know?
You know, I The thing is, I think that with LinkedIn, I try to be very careful because I am at a big company. So for context, I'm at Atlassian right now, which, it's not like a tiny startup where you could kind of just post whatever you want to. And you guys definitely know this as well. Like when you're at a big company, you need to have a little bit more guardrails up. And so that's why I try to make sure that I'm very like witty, but also I'm not self-deprecating too much in the sense that I'm just putting down my work ethic. So I think that there's a fine balance I need to have. However, most of my coworkers like it. To be fair, like my current manager used to be like a film student and he was making a bunch of documentaries and everything. And so he's like a cool guy. So he understands this type of things quite well. I know there's like some people within the company that like are like a little bit confused by what I'm doing on LinkedIn. Like they sometimes don't completely understand I guess, the intent of it being like, oh my gosh, Kevin, are you really like hating SF that much? Or like, oh my gosh, like, are you really having that bad of a week? And I need to clear up with them that it's all fun and games, but it's a great time. I think that people typically approve it, which is, I think, speaking of the culture that I have it right now, it's a tech company, so it's more chill, hopefully. And so typically quite approving.
Gotcha. And just to be clear, what is your role at Atlassian?
Yeah, my role is I'm a content program manager. So I make a bunch of YouTube videos for Atlassian. I run a series called Atlassian Answered. And I'm not gonna lie, right? Like my role at Atlassian has kind of just been a do-it-yourself puzzle. Like, there was originally my role, which was a program manager. So I was just, launching a bunch of different learning programs. And I realized that I just had a lot of extra time. And so I pitched my manager that I wanted to just do some learning video content. And he approved of it. I started posting it out. It started doing really well. And then they started telling me to do it more. And so I'm basically just doing my hobby as my full-time job.
And so when you say you're doing learning video content, like, is that related to Atlassian's products where you're like teaching about it, or is it something else?
Yeah, exactly. Teaching about Atlassian's products. So, for example, like Jira, Confluence, Rovo, a lot of people have this like they have this recognition of what the product is, but they don't really actually know what it does or what it's used for. And so, what we try to do is explain it in a way where even like a 6-year-old could watch the video hypothetically and understand what our products are.
That's fascinating. And it sounds like your role is pretty flexible in terms of what you're able to do. Obviously, as long as your manager is on board. It sounds like you almost have the ability to go and pitch, hey, I want to do this content series on YouTube, or hey, I want to try this new thing. And usually they give you flexibility. Would that be an accurate
Yeah.
statement?
Yeah, no, totally. I think Atlassian's one of those companies where it's big enough where there's at least some rules and guardrails. However, it's small enough, it's not like a Microsoft or a Google, where you could just pitch random new things as a relative new grad and, make an impact. So, the way that my team is structured, we just have a set of different goals across our organization. There's like 40 people on the learning team. And then from there, as a program manager, I'm giving a lot of flexibility on whatever programs I want to develop and launch. Um, and then I just full send it and see what happens. And sometimes it does okay. Sometimes it does really, really well. I think with the Atlassian Answered series, that one did really well. And so that's why I'm continuously doing it. But, hopefully different programs moving forward also continue to perform as adequately, but, it's a difficult landscape, like, it's hard to know exactly how something's gonna perform until you do it, so, a lot of times it's just, do it first and then see how it does. If it doesn't, pivot. If it does do well, then keep on investing more resources into it.
Kevin, a common theme we've talked about with a lot of other people on the show with similar roles like you, whether it's insights, which is a more, LinkedIn focused version of what you're doing, trying to explain the product or the data they have about a company in a more simple way. A big problem that these employees are having is trying to justify the ROI or the return on investment of their job to their employer. How do you think about that and defend it at Atlassian? Because it's tough to justify that, this YouTube channel is driving X amount of sales. You'll never know for certainty.
Totally. Well, I think it's just creating as much validation as possible so that it becomes almost impossible to argue otherwise. And so for me, I, put together the first couple videos. The way that I was able to justify doing that was just referring to a bunch of other content that other companies have made and say, hey, well, it looks like they're doing something similar. And so we should have a little bit something like this as well. Posted the first 5 videos. And then afterwards, I basically just started inviting a bunch of people to my company and have them do a focus group where they watch the video, fill out a survey before and after, and then just say, how much they want to buy the product before and after, or, their understanding of the product. And what we found was that there was like major increases in both viewer interest in the product, viewer understanding, and also a decrease in their perceived complexity of the product. And so from there, that's basically all the justification I needed to show to other people like PM, across the organization that these videos were valuable and that people were more likely to become customers after watching it. And it doesn't really hurt as well that, my CMO ended up seeing the videos and just really liked it. And so she actually had me come in to present with my director, and we basically presented the entire series and why it was really cool. So presented in front of her as well as, 30 other VPs or head of product marketings within the organization. And so that doesn't hurt when I'm trying to, make a case for a video series. However, yeah, I think just creating as much validation and whether that's your own focus groups or your own research, just trying to be as convincing as possible because at the end of the day, like all your coworkers are human. And so, not every single person's going to need, oh, like what's this like UTM driven, data increase of yada, yada, yada. Like they're going to be okay seeing, a scrappy focus group and see that this means something and understand that, with content, it is sometimes hard to measure. But if you put in the effort to try to measure it, it typically works out quite nicely.
That's fascinating. What do these focus groups specifically look like for Atlassian, and how do you go about finding people and measuring them?
Yeah, well, some of them are a little bit more complicated. Other ones are like the one that I did, where I basically just had a bunch of university students, come into the office that they're already doing an office tour. And so these people did not really know what Atlassian products were at all because, they were college students, which I thought was perfect. And these are kind of like the future of Atlassian's customer base as well. Have them come in and then just in the middle of the I guess, the office tour, I just had them sit down and say, "Okay, well, now it's time to learn a little bit more about our products." Have them take a survey, putting down how much they knew the product, how interested they were, watch the video, and then retake the survey. It's super scrappy, like, I did this right when I joined the company, and so, to be fair, it's like, I just kinda did whatever I could, but, I showed it off to people, and they understood that the constraints of the survey were that, it's not the most scientific, but at the same time, it shows something, and it shows that, there is a very strong reason for this to continue going out to customers. And also on top of that, we had just a lot of really positive customer feedback. Like every single time I would post about it on LinkedIn or on YouTube, the comments would just be flooding with, "Hey, this is the best explanation I've ever gotten about Jira," or "This is, like made me super interested in buying the product." And so that qualitative feedback as well was very lovely to have.
So Kevin, you're doing all this great work on, the video side, and I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile. It got you promoted in under 12 months. So congrats, super impressive. But LinkedIn, it feels like is less related to Atlassian, at least right now. Um, do you see it eventually being a part of the work that you're doing for Atlassian, or do you kind of want to keep it separate and more of a personal
Yeah.
channel?
It's a great question. I mean, so the LinkedIn network has it kind of stemmed that last year, I'm not gonna lie. I before I was just like your average LinkedIn bro. Like I made my profile really pretty and then I just had, random posts here and there if I got a new job. But then once I started Atlassian, I just said, "Hey, why not just make a post about Atlassian Answered once the video series came out?" So I did a post, ended up getting, 400,000 impressions, around 2,000 engagements, and it drove a ton of viewership towards the series as well as a lot of internal awareness as well. And so that worked out really nicely. Got a bunch of followers from that. And then I continued posting afterwards, just, whenever I'd post a new video. And then over time, I thought, hey, I'm really enjoying this posting. However, I want to now just kind of create my own brand. And so, well, how about I just, post things that are completely unrelated to Atlassian, but then whenever there are things that are related, then I could post that and then just, send it all out, get more of a follower base just through my non-Atlassian content, and then I could gain more awareness towards my Atlassian work as well. So for me, like I want people to just like be engaged in my content in general, but also be somewhat involved with my career. I think that my career is so public facing, being, video content that goes out online, that it's really important to have some type of external viewer base. Like I think that Chloe Shi, for example, I really like the way that she kind of has managed her career, while also being a public figure, where yes, she's vlogging a little bit about her career. She's explaining what she does. Sometimes when she has certain pieces of work, she posts about it. But then at the same time, a lot of her content is things that are completely unrelated and just about her herself.
Yeah, it's fascinating you bring up Chloe Shi. I mean, we we were in LA a couple months ago talking to Eric Way, one of her podcast co-hosts, and yeah, like he also mentioned she's done a really great job, and now she's, I think, transitioned fully out of like the corporate
Yeah.
side, but she's done super well for herself, and even while she was still at Discord, she was she was doing a good job of managing kind of like the content side of things while still being a full-time employee, which I think is a common question that a lot of people have. At least a question that I got a lot when I was at Google and still creating content is like, how do you like toe that line between like being a creator and obviously posting about stuff that's unrelated to work. And in your case, like if you're also creating content at work for the company, then it's like, how do you balance those two sides? And it feels like you've found some sort of a balance on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question as well. I mean, I think that's like the question that everyone's trying to understand is, they're trying to grow a following as well as their career. Um, For me, I'm just thinking, I'm just gonna do whatever I think feels right and then just full send it. If there's something on my mind that's about work, I'll put that out. If there's something on my mind that's not about work, I'll put that out. I think like my internal calibration of my mind is very non-work focused most of the time, and so that's why I'm just throwing out whatever's out there. But I do try to do a good job, and so sometimes I will think about work, and that's going to be what's going out. And so I think as long as I'm just like following my general feeling of what I want to post, it tends to work out quite nicely.
When you say you full send it, I love that. Where do you think that mindset or mentality comes from?
Dude, it comes from doing YouTube ever since I was like a 10-year-old. For example, when I was doing YouTube, I just wanted to have some type of following. However, I think for the first couple of months when I was like 10 years old, there was kind of that nervousness of, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready. Oh, I need to make sure that like my camera setup is perfect. But then I think once I was like 11, I was like, yeah, I was like the ripe old age of 11 years old. I became wiser. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to full set this. I'm just going to start like recording on my phone and then just like start putting out content. Obviously, it didn't do very well at all, but at least it was out there, and now I have something to improve upon. And I think the story of my channel is that, whatever you post, it doesn't really need to be good. Like, it needs to be far from perfect. It doesn't need to be anything that's of any quality. However, what you should do is try improving a little bit every single time. And so I would post, one super shitty video back when I was like 11 years old. And then the next week I would post another one that's still pretty shitty, but it's like 2% better. And then I'll continue following that 2% rule until eventually the videos actually become quite good. If you improve two things about the video every single time, eventually you'll actually improve the video. And that's kind of what I found to be very helpful, which is that a lot of times we kind of get in our own like analysis paralysis, but if we just throw it out there and then just, think about it later, it tends to do quite nicely.
We've all been there. And I think we all still have this today of analysis paralysis, imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. How do you go about this 2% rule and improving your content on LinkedIn? Because just like video editing on YouTube, you can't, well, you can, but it's hard to tangibly measure an improvement of a LinkedIn post. Like maybe one day it's the graphic or the photo, someday it's your writing, but like how do you go about improving your writing when there's not a step ladder like there is in investment banking where it's clear what you have to do in order to get the promotion?
Yeah, totally. I think that, obviously it's going to be vague. However, I think that you could always try improving the writing, just like identify a couple of things of a last post that you think aren't the best and also try learning from the posts that do well. And then I think another big part of it is just understanding what topics end up doing really well. Like Daniel, I saw that you, for example, you love screenshotting other profiles and putting a gigantic red arrow and circle or something. And I think that you found that that type of content style does well. And so I think for most people, it's just try to, if you post 100 things, eventually one of them is going to hit and do slightly better than the others. And so if you post those 100 things and you have that one that's kind of a proof of concept, start posting 100 of the ones that, did somewhat hit. And then from there, you'll maybe have a group of like 10 or 20, and then just keep on like, narrowing it down until you find your niche. And so for me, honestly, with LinkedIn, I don't think I found my niche at all yet. Like I'm still putting things out there. Some things do well, some things don't do well. However, I have a better idea. I'm getting a better idea of what does do well, which I think has led to me to grow like really quickly. I think that just a couple months ago, I had like a couple thousand followers on LinkedIn, and then now it's at 6,000. So I'm hoping that over the next, year or so, I could hit a solid amount. But I don't want to put exactly how much here because if I don't hit it and then I will look back at this a year from now, I'll be disappointed. So I'll keep that number to myself.
Just a reaction. I completely agree with you, Kevin. The point about like you put out 100 things, one of them or maybe two are likely to resonate with the audience or to just hit it off. And in Daniel's case, clearly there's something with screenshotting other people's profiles and like calling it out. Daniel, I think that means you need to do more of these call out posts. In my case, with like my personal YouTube channel, for me it was like discovering that people wanted to just so I do educational content and discovering that people really didn't care that much about like fancy edits, uh, but were willing to sit for like 30 minutes and watch me write on a whiteboard with like very few cuts. That was a big unlock, and then I just spammed that format last summer, and then that was really what grew my channel to where it is now. So yeah, it's like you got to throw stuff at the wall until something sticks, and then you just double down on that. And if you do that, then it's very difficult that you're not going to grow. So completely agree with you there.
Yeah, and it just, it sucks having obviously those like let's say 99 posts that don't do well, and on one hand, some people might find it a little bit embarrassing, but I think once you realize that, because the posts aren't doing well, no one's even seen them in the first place, then no one really cares. You could just do your own thing, and eventually, it takes a lot of time, but eventually if you find a style that works well, it's going to grow and it takes a while. Like I think with my YouTube channel, it took me like 2 years to hit 1,000 followers. But then after 3 years out of the 10,000 and then just continued to exponentiate after that. Where, 5 years later, I had 100,000 subscribers. So it takes time and it's very tedious. And I think it's also really easy to get inconsistent. But I think it's really important to also enjoy the process. Like, if you enjoy the process, it doesn't really matter anyways. So, that's kinda how I see that. I don't know. Do you guys feel like a lot of people go into content without actually, like, enjoying it? Because I feel like some people, they put out 10 videos and they're like, "Oh, man, it's not hitting," but also at the same time, they don't enjoy it either, and then so they just give up.
I think personally, people go into content creation with too high of an expectation of what's going to happen, especially in like the first 6 months. So, I think most people's in general, like they think in like shorter time horizons. So maybe like they want to see something happen in a month. But just because, my own experience, it took me, I think, 6 months to get to 1,000. And then, uh, I remember those first 6 months were absolutely brutal. And every day I would wake up, open up my YouTube Studio app, refresh it, and see that it had gone up by like 1 or 2 subscribers. And that was by far the hardest period, but that kind of
では、
trained me to like
宝のあ
anything that's like
で
very
さ、
difficult
さ
that you
び
want
ぞ
to do,
ぐ
you should at least give it like a 6 to 12 month period of time before you can expect to see any kind of result. Because if you quit before that, it's kind of a little bit too early, I think, especially with content. Like you're lucky if it takes off before that, but I also think too many people expect that it's going to take off sooner than it actually does. And as you know, content takes a long time. So yeah, it's tough if you've never experienced that before.
Totally. And I think the other thing as well is that a lot of people, they don't enjoy making the content in the first place. Like, I think people perceive content on the outside, which is that, oh, you're like just talking to the camera, you're like talking to brands or whatever, you're like thinking of ideas, it's sick. But like 90% of being a creator is just sitting in front of whatever editing software you are and just moving little clips around and then clicking on upload and waiting 30 minutes. Like, that's basically what a content creator does. And so I think luckily for me as a kid, I came to love that process. Like, I came to really, really love videography, video editing, all that good stuff. That the social media aspect of it, like talking to a camera or, growing an audience. I didn't really care about that kind of stuff. However, I think my biggest tip for people that want to get into content is try to understand whether or not you actually enjoy the process of it. It's like saying like, "Oh my gosh, I love science, but I only like the flashy big parts of science, and I'm not actually into like the nerdy, small stuff," which I'm most certainly not. So I can't say that I love science, but some people who actually do want to like read research papers, they can most certainly say it, rather than me watching like random Neil deGrasse Tyson talks.
I totally agree, Kevin. And I don't think this is anything really unique about content, actually. Like, if you were to start a new job at Atlassian, Kevin, you're not expecting to become the CEO within 6 months. Or if you all of a sudden want to be a doctor, you're not going to just go to med school and be like, okay, where's my, lab coat? Like, it's not, no industry works like that. And if you can get to something where you're enjoying the work like 70 to 80% of the time, because there's going to be that 20% where no one's going to like, there going to be late nights where you're editing and you just don't want to do it. But that's also part of it. And, um, yeah, I think you're so right, Kevin. A lot of people just think it's, posting without editing and it's just so easy to get a million views.
Yeah, I think people see like the flashy, sexy part of content creation, but then they don't see like the weeds level work of just being in front of a stupid little editor and like moving something like 0.1 seconds over just to make it sound a little bit smoother. Yeah, I totally agree.
And don't get me started
Yeah,
when the audio messes up, and then that's so frustrating too, setting out the equipment, but you gotta love it.
Exactly.
I want to switch gears a little bit now, Kevin, to more specific to LinkedIn. How long have you been sort of like actively posting on LinkedIn now at this point? Has it been like 6 months or only a
It's
few
been like
months? How long?
couple weeks, honestly.
Couple
I don't
weeks.
know. Yeah, like I think that I obviously had LinkedIn for a while, typical LinkedIn bro. sending out connection requests and everything, making it look good. And so I think that alone just got me to like, 1,000 connections or so, maybe 1,200. And then once I started Atlassian, I started posting maybe like once every 1 or 2 months about my work. And so that got me to another couple of thousand. And so I realized I was like, wait, if I posted like 12 times this last year and I was able to like grow that much, I feel like it do a lot more if I was actually consistent. And then so more recently, like 2 weeks ago, I started just posting every single day. And that alone has like increased it by like 1.5K like in the last couple of weeks. And so that's why I feel like there's something going on here that's like a good trajectory, but I don't want to jinx it 1 year later. So I'm not going to say exactly how many I want to have soon, but I definitely want to continue growing it. Um, yeah, it's just a whole lot of fun. I find it to be, you know, I realize that now I'm actually posting consistently. I'm actually able to learn a lot more about the platform. Before I was just posting aimlessly, and I think there's just very little to learn. Like, and even if you do learn something from posting, 1 month later when you're posting again, you kind of forget about everything. Whereas now I'm starting to get a better idea of like, okay, so what kind of photos do better? What kind of like text do better? Do I like longer pose or shorter pose? Um, what kind of topics do I want to do? Is it want to be like more controversial, or is it going to be more chill? Is it going to be just kind of like shit posts of being funny, or is it going to be more formal? I think there's been a lot of different learnings. And so, yeah, like I feel like I'm right now kind of like a link. I would consider myself a LinkedIn rookie that, has like a pretty okay follower base, but I still feel like I'm just starting.
Kevin, what attracted you to post on LinkedIn in the first place? Because you've got over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, 70,000 on TikTok. You're so successful at content, but what draws you into LinkedIn specifically?
Dude, I just realized because I was scrolling LinkedIn every single day for like hours, not hours, like, that's a little bit that'd be dangerous, but I was sending, like, at least, like, 30, 40 minutes on LinkedIn every single day, just, like, scrolling through posts, like, checking out, different companies, and so I was like, "You know what? If I'm on LinkedIn every single day, I might as well just be posting something, like, all this content I'm consuming, why can't I be contributing as well?" What I also realized is that, from posting on LinkedIn, a bunch of different opportunities come up, like like going to maybe speak at an event, or maybe like join a creator program, or even like small sponsorships, or startup consulting opportunities. I think just a lot of different things start to pop up when you have a LinkedIn presence versus having a YouTube presence. Now these things really popped up besides brand deals. And so it was a mix of me really enjoying the platform and also feeling like there was going to be some like tangible improvements. Also, I think the fact that my role is so publicly facing, where every single thing I work on ends up going live to the public, made it a very clear choice that I'm going to, have at least some type of presence on LinkedIn. Sip, hot, sip, bake, yes, tea.
Daniel, you look like you're about to ask something.
Oh,
Otherwise, I can jump in.
you jump in, Matt.
Sip, hot,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Kevin, completely agree with you. It's interesting because I think the audience that follows you on LinkedIn is probably different from the audience that's watching you on YouTube, and for obvious reasons, right? Like your channel is focused on like Rubik's Cube stuff, so probably a very different consumer facing audience on YouTube versus the people that follow you on LinkedIn. Probably maybe also content tech focused, other professionals, things like that. And I also completely agree. There's been different kinds of opportunities that come through LinkedIn, more business focused opportunities than the ones that come through YouTube.
Yeah, no,
So
it's super cool. Like, there's a lot of professional opportunities. I mean, I'm just like from your guys like posting on LinkedIn, like what has kind of popped up? Is there anything that's been unexpected? Any unexpected opportunities from having some type of LinkedIn following?
yeah, I mean, I think number one thing for me that I like about LinkedIn is just like the networking. And I know it's cheesy, but really, uh, most of the guests that we get on to this podcast are on LinkedIn, and we reach out to them on LinkedIn. And it's like a really great way to just find people that are doing cool things. And, when you reach out to them, they can actually look at your profile so they can see that it's not just some random person.
Yeah.
So I think the networking is super, super powerful, and not enough people are really tapping into that, because I think not everyone wants to be like the one that reaches out and then gets like ghosted in a DM. But like, you know,
it's been really cool reaching out to a lot of founders and creators, people like you, um, and being able to genuinely connect with them and learn from them and have these conversations with them has been really awesome. I think also just business wise, uh, lots of opportunities for the marketing agency that I started, which is more focused on LinkedIn, but I've
Totally.
gotten a number of customers through that because they see my content and events and stuff. I guess occasionally there's like one or two interesting events that, I find through LinkedIn that are pretty interesting. But yeah, I would say it's probably like the networking number one for me. Daniel and I met on LinkedIn. We never would have if
Oh my
uh,
gosh, really?
yeah, we did. So we never would have met if either of us were not posting. I saw a post that Daniel made about, I think it was about ghostwriting, and then I sent him a connection request because of that, and the rest
Th-
is history.
Well, I thought you guys were like buddies from high school or like buddies from college or something like that. That's crazy. Do you think that I never heard of like a LinkedIn, friendship story. I've heard of people like, oh yeah, like they maybe like started working together through LinkedIn or they start becoming like acquaintances, but like homies, like that's a wonderful story. Diana, how about you? Anything interesting from LinkedIn besides becoming, buddies with Matthew?
Well, I'll first say that, Eric and Chloe, that's another LinkedIn friendship story. Kevin, I don't know if you knew that one either.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Gosh, maybe.
DM friendship.
Um, so Daniel, I'm interested in like Matt as well. When you guys are doing LinkedIn, I mean, you guys both work in consulting, and so what is that balance like? Because for me, I realize I work in tech, and so kind of no one really cares, and a lot of people have those public presences. But I feel like if it's consulting, it's a little bit different, where it's well, obviously a lot of hours, so you probably have less time to post. But also on top of that, it might be very like rigid. I don't know. My perception of consulting is probably very different from what it actually is like. But I'm curious to see if you've noticed any differences between trying to be a LinkedIn creator while working in tech versus being in something like consulting.
I mean, I guess I can go first because I actually didn't post when I was at in consulting. So there's never like an issue for me. For Daniel, he can comment on this in a bit because he's still at Bain. But I left BCG, which is where I was, to go to Google, and then I didn't start posting on LinkedIn until I was at Google
Gotcha.
already. And I think the culture is already a little bit more flexible, and there's other like content creators. Um, I I definitely, I don't know if I should say this, but I think I definitely have the mentality of like just like ask for forgiveness later, or like act now, ask for forgiveness later. And obviously I still, you know, use common sense, right? I'm not going to post anything that's like criticizing my employer or criticizing Google if I'm still
Mhm.
working there. But yeah, I mean, now I left Google a couple weeks ago, so that's not an issue for me. I can post whatever I want about them.
Heck yeah. That's crazy. That's awesome.
I will first start, Kevin, with the fact that when you're posting something on social media as an employee, I am vigilant and constantly thinking about the fact that what I would think if my manager and if the CEO of my company saw this. And I just think you have to assume when you're posting on social media as an employee that you have to think about this. And like we're talking to Eric Way about this on our pod because, when he was working at Instagram McKinsey, these were the same things he had to assume. And it is tough. When I tell most people I post on LinkedIn, they're like, they don't believe me at the start. I'll have to like pull out my phone. I'm like, no, like I actually post on LinkedIn, and it's awesome just because it's a foreign concept to a lot of people, but you there is a sense of responsibility where you can't like I can't act like I'm speaking on behalf of my employer or any of that stuff either.
Exactly. No, that definitely makes sense. I think that's super important. Yeah, I'm just curious to see like more, corporate people that are doing social media content, kind of what their experience has been, because I do think it's a very tricky line to weigh on. And even when I'm just trying to like go through it, I'm like thinking, okay, yeah, like my manager sees this, CEO sees this, anyone on my team sees this. Is it possible for them to misinterpret this to be more negative? And so I think that just trying to make things that are very like tongue in cheek and just more, unrelated to work at times is really important. or, just talking about things that are completely unrelated to my company, like the startup AI SF ecosystem at the moment
Mm.
is the way I've been trying to go.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when we were talking to Jason Alvarez Cohen, our previous guest, he lost his seed round from Octa Ventures because of a TikTok. And I'm not saying in the other part of the coin is so like, yeah, if you're too controversial, you can lose opportunities like that. But then also, if you don't have enough emotion or like, stuff in your post and you're just posting something that sounds like it was written by ChatGPT just so it's okay to post, no one's going to see that. So you're constantly walking a fine balance between showing emotion and trying to go viral and also trying to, you know, not aggravate anybody and really just be positive.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that, where I've seen people who end up doing very well on LinkedIn a lot of times because they're working at startups maybe, they can kind of just post whatever they want to and it's okay. However, I think that, coming from a big company, then you have to be a lot more careful. You have to be more conscious of different things. But if anything, I see it as a challenge where it's like if you could, get some type of following by only creating value-added content and not trying to be controversial, not trying to, be like brain rotty for lack of a better word. Um, and you're able to still get a following from that, I think that just shows your skill and like, expertise of being a content creator. And so to me, I think it's a suitable challenge.
Kevin, I'm curious what, just like content creation generally, like what do you think characterizes the best content creators? Um, and maybe this is getting a little bit off topic, but I was just thinking from what you guys were saying that in a way, social media is performative because you kind of do need to be a little bit controversial or like you need to write your posts or film the hook of your video in a certain way that is going to like hook people and get that engagement. Um, but you're also trying to be authentic, right? And you're also trying to like say things in a way that sounds like what you would be like in real
Hmm.
life. So like there's that tension and um in my view, I feel like the best content creators are they understand both sides of that. So they're able to like still optimize for engagement, but like they don't lose their voice by purely just optimizing for engagement. Like I think, I'm not going to name
Yeah.
any names, but like there's probably people out there that only optimize for pure engagement and they'll do whatever to just like engagement farm.
Yeah. And it just ends up being pure sloth. That's a great question. I mean, yeah, it's just in getting your guys' opinions as well. For me, what I've seen with really successful content creators is that one, they are so like abnormally obsessed with their craft to the point where like it feels unhealthy, but it's just what they're doing. Like I think that, I had a small stint where I was like that as well, where I think for 5 months when I was doing YouTube, I didn't miss a single day of uploading. I literally uploaded every single day, being my own editor and being my own like everything. And so that kind of like burnt me the hell out. But it worked really well. I grew really fast. And so one, you're making your entire life. Two, I think that the people that do really well in content are the ones that are able to translate their personality well to content. Like, I don't think you have to have a certain personality. I think everyone has the personality to do content, but it's just how well you translate it. Because I'm not gonna lie, I think there's some people that are super funny or super energetic in real life, but then online they just can't capture that. Or I think there are some people who typically in real life are just like more subdued and more maybe like boring people. But then if they're able to translate really well, where they're talking about the right topics, they're showcasing their personality in the right way, they can become really successful. Like I think for example, like PewDiePie, for example, he doesn't have this outlandish personality where it's like super out there and he was built for YouTube. I think in reality though, he translates well his personality super well to YouTube, where it feels like you're talking to a friend. So I think that that's super important. Um, yeah, interested in hearing your guys' perspectives of meeting other content creators and seeing what works for them.
I really like that point about being able to translate what you are like in real life into social media, which is a different medium. And that's like its own skill almost to be able to do that. Uh, I think one thing that I've noticed among content creators that are successful is also they're introspective in the sense of they like you have to be introspective about like why you've taken certain decisions or made certain decisions in the past, or why you've chosen to go down a certain path. You have to like understand your motivations behind it well enough before you can even hope to translate those experiences to an audience in the way that you want to. So I think a lot of them, I feel like actually spend a lot of time sort of just like reflecting and thinking about like, you know, it depends on the content that you're making, but like if you're making content talking about like what you've learned from an experience or from a job, then I think like having that level of introspection is super important. It's something that I've noticed with a lot of the content creators, especially in like the career space, for example.
Totally. Yeah.
To me, what I think a lot of the best content creators have is a I don't know the best way to describe it, but like they're okay with rejection. And what I mean is it's not normal or probably not even healthy either to see no one care about 99 of your videos or see hate comments and be like, you know what? I want to wake up tomorrow and keep trying this. Most people, that's why, you see the crypto rise and falls. And the same with the stock market. People are emotional investors. They're also emotional with like their time. So if something isn't giving them a return or that dopamine hit, they're going to stop. But the best content creators know that they've got to keep going. And as they're keeping going, they're learning these things like you're talking about, like being able to communicate effectively and in a way that resonates in a lot with the audience, which is typically talking at like a lower reading level so everyone can understand. So through being able to deal with a lot of this rejection is what I think makes the best content creators to me.
Yeah, no, I think that rejection is really important. I'm curious, like, what's been like the biggest piece of criticism or like the I guess oft the highlight of your guys' hate comments that you guys have ever had in your social media journeys? And I could go first. Like one time I had this person who he basically did like a 1 hour live stream talking about my YouTube channel and like talking to like his viewers about how like, oh, this was like, he like doesn't like make long videos because he's lazy or like he's very clickbaity. This is back when I was like 17 years old. And so I remember when this stream came out, I was like in shambles and everything. I had the whole like response and everything to it, just being like, hey, I understand the criticism, but also at the same time, you don't understand the situation. You don't understand a lot of the context. So I think that like kind of threw me for a loop. And I think that getting hate comments for the first time, I don't know, it made me like shake and like I didn't know how to handle it. I felt like I was like everything was over. Now if I get hate comments, I literally couldn't care less. But yeah, I think that it was a very interesting situation where like there was a whole like hate live stream, which I found to be very funny. But yeah, what about you guys? Any interesting ones? Any interesting comments or Reddit posts or anything?
I mean, to be honest, after hearing your story, I feel like I've actually gotten off pretty lightly, knock on wood. Um, I mean, I get comments on videos all the time that are I don't know if they would be like hate comments, but it's like someone took a minute out of their day to comment something negative. Um, I think like a specific example is like I've gotten ones where people, well, one, there's like ones where people just like comment about my appearance, which is completely unrelated to what the video is about. I've gotten comments about people saying like, "Oh, those who cannot do teach." Have you heard that before? It's basically the idea that like if you're not good at the job that you do or you're not good at the actual craft, instead what you do is you go and teach. And my channel's like essentially me teaching stuff. So that, it's kind of like a
That must
negative
be like the
comment there.
top 5 like dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Like push. Anyways, anyways, that's just me hating on the haters.
Yeah. And it's also like you can't satisfy people. So I've gotten comments about some of my videos are about like corporate communication and like how to like give a presentation and stuff. And so in the beginning, I would have a lot of cuts in these videos because I wanted to like cut out slow moments or pauses and kind of like keep the engagement high. And then I started getting a lot of comments of people being like, "How can you be teaching communication if you're cutting your videos so much?" So then I was like, oh, okay, like they kind of have a point there. Let me slow it down. So I started publishing videos that had less cuts, and then the comments would be like, oh, dude, you talk so slow. Like this is so boring. Like you've lost me in like minute two. And so anyway, like you can't satisfy people is what I've learned. There's always gonna be someone that's unhappy. Uh, and don't get me started on like the people that like to mansplain in the comment section. Like, oh yeah, no, actually, like you should do it this way. Like this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, yeah, you should listen to me, some random person in the in the comments section. But not to get sidetracked, but those are kind of the comments that I tend to get. And normally I just ignore them. I never respond to any of them, to be honest, because it's just not worth my time. And yeah, it's I think it's just par for the course.
I totally agree. I'm gonna steal a line from Alex Hermosi here, and it's that hate's a fixed cost. Like, Kevin, if you were to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, obviously you're gonna get hate comments. But if you were to have zero and we're just like working in Atlassian in content, you would still get hate comments of people like, "Why are you throwing your job away? What are you doing?" And the same, like, people will judge you either way. So it's just a fixed cost of doing not just content, but anything in life.
Totally, totally. I fully agree. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think that at the end of the day, you just gotta realize that all people are different. And if anything, it's like, criticism, if you could understand like the root of the criticism and think, okay, well, there may be some type of insecurity that's coming out of this commenter or this comment, like this, person talking about my content, and understand that maybe insecurity is something that you don't really resonate with or you don't really see as something that I guess is of value, then yeah, you just ignore that stuff. And I mean, for me, like I was thinking of it as like, okay, this person and like a lot of people that were commenting on my stuff, there were some things that were quite valid. Like I think that I should have made a little bit longer videos because some of them were like 3 minutes long, and so I could see that. Sometimes a little bit clickbaity. I could see that. Also, at the same time, it's just business, but at the same time, like I could see it. Um, but when it comes to stances on topics that I'm very passionate about, like those are the things that I think are really important to like hold your base, hold your damn base when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Kevin, I want to finish up by asking you some questions about LinkedIn. And writing a LinkedIn post is much different than making a YouTube video and much different than making a TikTok. So I'm curious, what is your process from idea all the way to post for writing on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think the beauty of LinkedIn is that you could basically just do it wherever you want to, whenever you want to. With YouTube, for example, you got to be in a specific place. You got to have your camera in hand if you have your lighting set up and everything. So there's a lot of steps and a lot of rigidity to when you're able to actually make a YouTube video. However, with LinkedIn, you could just hop on your phone and then just type something out really quickly and send it out. And so that's the approach that I like to have with it, where, if I'm at work and I think they're just like, 20 minutes in between meetings, I'll just work on a LinkedIn post. Or if I'm walking to and back from work, I'll type while I'm walking. Or if I'm in an Uber, like yesterday, I was literally in an Uber for like 15 minutes. And so I just made my last LinkedIn post during that Uber ride. So I think it's really important to just like take advantage of the fact that LinkedIn being rich in content is something you could do anywhere, and you could be as flexible as you want to be with it. I'm curious, what do you guys think is a good posting cadence? Because I've been posting like once a day, but I've seen, if I know Daniel, like you post like every single like couple minutes, and then other people will post like every single week, and so I'm curious as to like what's the strat.
I mean,
Um,
I can give you my strat. My strat is whenever I have good content, I'm gonna post it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Saturday at 11 p.m. or Monday at 8:30 Eastern. If there's good content, I'm gonna post it. And what I do now is because I'm pretty busy during the week, is I schedule it all. So I'll schedule 2 posts
gotcha.
a day for the next week. But I really think it does come down to post quality. It's not, and I don't think timing or any of that stuff matters, but I can let Matt go too. He posts a lot less than me.
Yeah, I would say I agree with Daniel. I think again, quality matters. So if you can do 5 quality posts a week, then 100% you should do it. But if you can only do like 3 a week at that quality, then I think that's also completely fine as long as there's some sort of regular cadence. Um, because there's no point in, putting out 7 posts a week if they're all kind of trash or just not the level of quality that you want to portray to your audience. So
Totally.
for me, like, yeah, I would say I post a lot less than Daniel. It's probably like 3 times a week. Um, Trying to do more actually, probably closer to like Monday to Friday, but usually it's just the constraints with like my time and then um yeah, honestly, I don't have a ton of excuses to be honest. I should be posting more consistently.
Hey, no, it is strategic, 5 times a week, high quality every single time. That's your equilibrium for success. Don't worry. No excuses. No need for an excuse out here.
Oh, Kevin, I'm gonna post 3 times just today. I've already got my
You know
post
what?
scheduled and ready to
And
go.
yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely gonna try experimenting with different cadences because I think that once a day, that's what worked best on YouTube. That was kind of like the secret to success when it comes to YouTube, where if you're posting every single day at the exact same time, eventually your viewers just start expecting your content to come out at that exact time, and they're right on it right when it's out, and then it just creates this like super super healthy recurring playlist. Whereas with LinkedIn, I think it's a little bit different. And so I think sometimes I kind of take a lot of like my other content experiences and throw into LinkedIn with varying levels of success. So we'll play around with it. We'll see what works.
What has been working so far?
What's been working so far? I think it's just talking about topics that resonate with people. Like the posts that I send out that I think do the best are the ones that I know for a fact are quite topical, or I know that there's like an existing audience for it. And so, for example, whenever I visit a new city, like I visited New York City, for example, I just did a post about it, and so now people from New York City are going to see that and be like, oh my gosh, I want to read about what this person has to say about my city. Same thing with SF. I also did the one about how like LinkedIn is getting weird. That one got 100,000 impressions, and I think a lot of people are resonating right now that LinkedIn is becoming kind of a strange place. So that's what's been working so far. I think the ones that aren't working as well are the ones that are a little bit too random, or just kind of like random, I don't know, intrusive thoughts that I have in my mind. I think I need to stay a little bit more topical, but it's just continuous learning, right? Maybe I'm completely off base here, or maybe I'm right on target. So just continuous learning.
I wanna ask Kevin before, do you have any LinkedIn conspiracies that you're following, like posting at 9 a.m., making sure the hook's under 63 characters, or putting a selfie with like not putting more than one image on a post? Anything else like that you're following for good or bad reason?
So I think this one is very vain, where like I need to make like whatever post I have, I need to make sure that I look good in the photo. Like I'm not gonna have an ugly photo of myself. I don't know. I just need to like have a photo that I'm proud of and put it out there. One is for my own insecurity, but two, I feel like if you're just scrolling and then you see like someone that like I don't know, it's like a well pose and like good scenery and everything, and it's like a good fit and everything. I feel like that will have a higher likelihood of stopping scrolls. But I don't know. I basically have like my girlfriend, like whenever she takes photos of me, she always takes the best photos of me. And so I'm always just like using those photos as the link to post. And actually, like the posts that do the best are always the one that she takes of me. And so I think there's something here where I just need to continue doing it. But also to be fair, it could be topical. But that's my conspiracy. I don't know if I'm just making stuff up or I'm just insecure.
You're not alone. When we talked to Akil Reddy, who's a YC founder with like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, he said the same thing. When post with either himself in them or especially with other people as well, those will do better than post of just pure text typically for him.
Mhm. Totally, totally. Yeah, so I don't know. I just need to make sure that like the fit's okay and everything. Now I need more photos of myself because I'm starting to run out. I'm like scrolling through my camera roll and being like, I cannot like any of these photos, and so I don't think I could post right now. But yeah, I'll play around with it. I also realized that it's always the ones that are specific type of framing, where like the ones where it's just like a normal selfie or just like me kind of doing a little point five. That doesn't tend to do well. It's always the ones that are like beautiful scenery in the background, like, pose where I'm like, like having a side profile or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'll keep on trying to get more photos and I could put it out. It'll be like my personal Instagram with text.
That'll be awesome. What do you think about comments? Are you commenting a lot? Is that working?
I am not too much, but I'm interested. Like, do you guys find that comments are a good way of gaining gaining engagement or not?
Oh, come on, Kevin.
They're really good
We
to
gotta put you
impressions.
on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm writing this shit down.
Kevin, you got to get on the comment game. You can get like literally the same amount of impressions from comments than uh, as you would if you were to make like a standalone post for just like way less effort. Especially if you comment on a viral post that someone else made. So
Interesting.
yeah, Daniel, I don't know what like your numbers are, but I've definitely gotten like tens of thousands of impressions before off of comments if they're well written and if they're on somebody else's post that's also doing really well.
I echo everything Matt said and more. I've had comments get 20,000 impressions, comments on my own post that go viral. Like one that I put of the Sampar stop doing this, the ultimate meme that like I had a comment there with like 5,000 impressions. I left, I think this week, 450 comments, which is definitely excessive. But every time I'm on, I'm commenting on every post I see pretty much. And because of that, like last week, I think I had 60,000 impressions just from comments, which is way more than my average post. So it's definitely worth it to comment. And I think it's a great growth strategy because especially when you comment and then tag the author, it pops up in their notification feed because those are most of the comments that I'll always respond to because I see them first when I check the app.
And do you find that translating to like followers and stuff?
I think it's hard to directly attribute it because social media is like it's kind of
Yeah.
a black box. Like I don't, is it the post, is it the comments, whatever. But I can tell you with podcast guest for certain because when we had Peter Walker on the show, he's the head of insights at a company called Carta. Not sure if you follow Peter. If you don't, you 100% should, Kevin. And he was like, yeah, I mean, when people reach out to me, he's got 150,000 followers. If they're commenting on my post, I'm so much more likely to respond to them. So Matt and I do the same thing with guests. We'll comment on people that we want to have on the show. Like I even think I did this with you. I might have commented on one or two of your posts and then I DM you. And it's just like a much better outreach method than just like not, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'll write that down. I'll start thinking of witty little comments I could put on other people's posts, and hopefully this is the number one growth strategy that unlocks my potential.
Excited to see it. I'm sure you'll do really well. Humor also does really well. So, you know, funny comments. I feel like you'd be very good at that.
We'll play around with it. I think in that case, I need to work on like my LinkedIn tagger because it just says like content at Atlassian. I think if it's a little bit more eye catching, I'll have more people be clicking my profile as well from a comment. But we'll play around with it. It's all experimentation. Hopefully, a year from now, I've learned a lot more about LinkedIn than I do right now.
Kevin, this is my wheelhouse coming up with the taglines, but I'm going to come up with that in a second. In the meantime, we're going to do good idea, bad idea to give myself some time to think about potential new punchy taglines for you because as you're
Wonderful.
commenting, the tagline will get more people to click your profile. But the first idea, and so I guess for context too, what's going to happen is I'm going to give you an idea and you're going to tell me if this is a good idea or a bad idea and and why. So the first one is doing a series of being CEO at Atlassian for today, of CEO of Atlassian for a day. And I see this going one of two ways. I think it's either you following around the Atlassian CEO for a day and making a series about that. And also maybe, you know, acting like you are the CEO of Atlassian and seeing the decisions you would actually make on a day-to-day basis. Do you think those would be a good idea or a bad idea?
I like it in spirit. I do think that putting it out, I'm not sure how some people in my company would feel about it, but I like it. So I'll say good idea for Kevin, bad idea for some people at Atlassian.
The next idea is writing LinkedIn posts for other colleagues at Atlassian. What do you think about that?
That's actually Good idea, good idea. That's actually something I've low-key been doing right now, where a lot like, even, a couple days ago, like, a senior PM reached out to me saying, "Hey, I see you posting a ton of different things about Atlassian on LinkedIn. Would love to learn about from you." And so I think what we're probably gonna start doing is just, like, this employee advocacy hub where I give strategy on how employees could show up on LinkedIn, what type of posts do well, and just teach people how to, like, spearhead, like, their products, and I feel like I could Ye I'm getting way too deeper into this, but very good idea. There's lots of different things that could be done with that.
I also think that it's a really good idea because and Matt and I have talked about this on previous episodes, but employee generated content is definitely going to be a thing moving forward. And I think it's really smart that you and Atlassian are going to get ahead of that by posting because even if someone at Atlassian, that senior PM, maybe she has 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, if she's posting once a week, 50 times 2,000, like that's 100,000 impressions that are great impressions. So, that can definitely add up and make a business impact and also a personal brand impact for the employee as well.
Totally.
Now, the third idea is a growth hack Olympics. And the thought here is you have an internal either social media or growth competition to see who can get the most impressions or likes on a video in a certain amount of time or sign up a certain amount of customers. And you can also make a series around this, of course.
Gosh, and I think the issue is that I would win the competition. Like, it wouldn't be fair. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think very fun idea. I think that gamification and making things a competition is a fun time. Dan, are you just like the type of person where whenever you're with friends, you're just like the hear me out guy, where you're just like hear me out, and then you just like throw some random wacky idea on anything that you're doing?
Pretty much. I think Matt understands this too, that I just about anything I will throw out a crazy idea about it.
Okay, yeah, that I could just imagine, like, you seeing, like, the Daniel Greenberg LinkedIn profile picture coming up in the DMs with a smile and just being like, "Yo, Matt, hear me out." Just throwing, like 10 random things and Matt being like, "Okay, this one, yes, this one, no, this one, maybe, this one, I'll do it, but only if you do it harder." I don't know.
The- Kevin, what you described is pretty much what we do. I might send Matt like 10 things and then it's like 8 of them get ghosted, but one's like, okay, let's definitely do this though.
A match made in heaven. The power of LinkedIn.
Actually, are there other people at Atlassian that do content or is it just you?
Yeah, there are a few different people. Like I think there's this one product manager, who I worked with, who I think she has like 10,000 on LinkedIn. Where I think a
Oh,
lot of her
nice.
following though just comes from being incredibly cracked. So she doesn't even need to post that much content. It's just people see her profile and see that she worked at like Microsoft, Apple, Atlassian. I'm not sure she worked at Microsoft, but like worked at a bunch of different huge companies and like moved up super quickly. So I think people just see that and just be like, okay, wow, like that's really impressive. There was this one intern, last summer that came in, who her name's Arlena, she had like 30,000 followers, and so she would be posting a ton of different things about, like, both her work, but also just, like, teaching, other people within Atlassian how to be better at LinkedIn. She was interning under the social media team, and so that's kind of where a lot of her learnings kind of came out, and so there are a few other people out there, but I definitely think that more people should be posting on LinkedIn. Like, I think that if the entire company, especially the entire marketing team, was just understanding how thought leadership works, understand how employee generated content works, and putting a lot more awareness towards our campaigns, uh, the company could be doing much better. So, we'll work on that.
I totally agree, Kevin. Um, is there anything else that Matt and I didn't hit on that you want to say or questions you want to ask us?
Dude, honestly, like I'm just interested in hearing like more LinkedIn tips. Like, what are there any like underground hacks besides the commenting that I don't know about? Because I'm just trying to, and then also for the viewers as well. Like what are some other things that you only realize after doing it for a while that you start to pick up?
I I'll go first, and
Mhm.
Daniel, I'm sure you've got a bunch of ideas as well. I don't know, just basic stuff like making sure after the hook you maybe like hit an extra space or line so that they have to click see more to see the second line. That's something that I think not too many people give too much thought to, but because like I think the two, if I were to guess, I don't work at LinkedIn, but like the top two engagement signals that the algorithm would look for is like, oh,
Oh my god, balloons.
is do they hit see more, number one, and then what's the dwelling time on the actual post itself? So I try to force them like to click see more. And then trying to think if there's anything else. Like I think fundamentally the idea for the post has to be good, because if you have a bad idea, it doesn't matter how you're gonna write it. I just don't think it'll be that interesting to people. So making sure that the idea is really good, and then like the writing of the idea itself, that's like the second part. Um, but I think I try to spend more time thinking about like, is this idea even something that's interesting to begin with before I put a bunch of time and energy into writing the post. Um, and I think I got that tip from just like YouTube, because every YouTube video is so much work that you want to make sure the idea is actually good.
Totally.
But on LinkedIn specifically, I think, yeah, making sure that the hook is really good, it opens a really strong curiosity loop. Making sure that, you're forcing them to hit see more. And then like with the photos, you probably already know this, but like having a really good photo is something that I think definitely has a huge impact on engagement. At the end of the day, you're just trying to, I mean, it's just people on LinkedIn. So they want to see faces and they want to see other people.
Exactly, exactly. Again, I have a different question for you. So I
Okay.
think there's an interesting rise of teenagers on LinkedIn that are like in high school. So you'll see in their profile, it just puts their age like 17. And to be fair, this is my little brother as well. He's 17 years old, posting on LinkedIn. Good idea or bad idea?
To me, and I'm obviously biased, but I think it's a great idea because let's just think about if you're your brother, for example. How old is he? 16, 17?
Yeah, 17 years old.
He's 17. That's what, a senior in high school. Like, you can either be, but like, he's learning how to communicate better on LinkedIn. He's furthering his personal brand and his career. He's standing out when applying to other colleges. And he's not just doom scrolling TikTok, which is probably what he would be doing if he weren't posting on LinkedIn. So, like,
He
to
he does
me,
both, to be fair. I won't lie. He's
I,
doing a little bit of both.
I'm sure we all do. And there's time to post on LinkedIn and also doom scroll. But to me, that's why I think it's a great idea. And I'm proud of your little
I
brother.
absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll tell him to continue. No, it's so funny as well. Where like his post always supposed to do better than mine. Like his last post got like, I don't know, I think a good like 10,000, like 20,000 impressions, and so he's starting to, move his way up within the LinkedIn world, and hopefully when he's in college, it'll go crazy.
Kevin, before we wrap up, I have to tell you that I have watched some of your videos and used to love solving a Rubik's Cube. There's one in our office that right by the tech help desk. And whenever I'm there, I'll solve it. I still have the whatever I got to do memorized in my head. Same with the triangle and with the 2x2, not just the 3x3.
Okay, we got a cuber out here.
I know
Well,
I've got a
man,
speed cube too. I honestly, I'm gonna show it to you right now.
okay. All right, let's get a little bit of a demonstration out here. Matt, do you
I
Rubik's cube from time to
also,
time?
I do know how to solve one. I don't, I'm not a speed cuber, so you guys are probably faster than me, but I can hold my own.
I mean,
Oh, Daniel, you got the
Oh,
collection.
wow.
oh yeah.
Daniel.
Back in the day,
Well,
I was super into it, and now
you
obviously
don't
not
play
as
around with
much.
us.
No, it was fun. So
That's awesome. To be fair, for me, I still Rubik's Cube for like 2 hours a day, and so I haven't grown out of it. I'm still like a little teenage kid playing Rubik's Cubes.
that's awesome. Well, you should maybe solve one on LinkedIn. That'd be fun. I could,
We'll
I might have
see.
to do a LinkedIn post
Actually,
about the Rubik's Cube.
I'll put that out. I'll just like send out I'll post a video and then I'll have a random, shit post popping how like what solving Rubik's Cubes has taught me about B2B SaaS. And so I'm sure it'll be great. Great. Well, so fantastic being on the pod and, loved getting to know you guys and chatting through different things.
Thank you. Well,
Thanks for
Kevin's
coming on.
LinkedIn will be in the description below. And thanks again for coming on, Kevin.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, guys.